live from the J.C. Newman Cigar Studio in Boston, Massachusetts. Welcome to the Smokin Tobacco Show with your hosts, Matt Tobacco and Smokin Nicole.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Smokin Tobacco Show. My name is Matt Tobacco from SmokinTobacco.com, and I am joined once again by my very good friend, Mr. Mitchell Santaga of SmokinTobacco.com, live in beautiful British Columbia in the Gurkha Cigar Studios. Mitchell, how are you?
You know what? I'm doing great. It is another beautiful day here in British Columbia. The sun is out, it's shining, and we're feeling good.
And it's a very special week for us this week, as many people probably know. We officially launched early, as teased and promised. We officially launched the third iteration of our Cigar Family Charitable Foundation raffle, which is already, I haven't looked at it in like the last 2 hours, but
Three,
it
4,000, I think.
it was almost 5.
Yeah.
Almost 5 after almost 48 hours.
People are putting in work.
Yeah, we got like 42 days to go. For those who don't remember, or if you weren't there with us last year, we raised $25,500 on our own, and then the Fuente family actually matched it, making it an even $51,000.
That's just amazing.
Yeah, and you know we did not even expect to get anywhere close to that. I mean, if we got to 10, we were going to be happy. So now that we know we can do that, we are really pushing for big numbers this year. We really want to blow this thing open. So, and it's amazing because we already have a lot of amazing prizes, and they're still coming in and being finalized. All of the stuff from Arturo Fuente needs to be put in, which there's a lot of stuff there. I'm talking boxes of 20th anniversary, Opus X Dubai, Rare Pinks, Forbidden X, as well as samplers of all the Lanceros and all the crazy stuff, the swag, all that amazing stuff that they have, plus so many cool things from everyone else. Drew Estate, La Flor Dominicana, Christoph Cigars. There's a Line 2 lighter from SD DuPont. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. There is a lot of stuff in there, and it keeps growing by the day. So go over to our page. I believe it's rallyup.com/smokin tobacco.
Go.rallyup.com/smokin
Yes, that's what it is. You can also go to our website, smokintobacco.com, and in the navigation bar at the top, if you find, is it charity or raffle? There's a link there, and it'll have all that you can see last year's. You can go to this year's. You can get your raffle tickets there. You also have the option to make a general donation. If you don't want any raffle tickets, you don't want to participate in that, that's fine. But if you want to make a regular donation and still contribute, there's also an option to just make a non-raffle donation. There's crowdfunding options, as well as if you have, when you do buy raffle tickets, if you want more for free, if you check your email after you buy your raffle tickets, there should be in there somewhere that like a custom link for you. If you share that link with your friends and they use that link to buy raffle tickets, you'll get like a percentage of, I think it's like 5 tickets for every certain amount that they donate or whatever. And they'll go back to you. So you get more tickets for free the more people you get to buy raffle tickets. So I would not sleep on this, guys. There's a lot of cool stuff. United, so the newest prize of the day, United Cigar. I spoke to Oliver and Dan. They are putting in the Alfonso ashtray that some of you may have seen me with, that I acquired through the nethers of mysterious lands. But if you want one too, there's one up for grabs, as well as some other good stuff from United Cigar. So I believe that's on the page now. But like I said, it's new crazy stuff every day. So just keep on checking it. But the biggest thing is all this money goes to such an amazing place. It's such a great cause. Nicole and myself went down to the Dominican Republic. We went to the school and we met the kids and we saw it. And I will tell you that if anyone ever gets the opportunity to go, please take it, because it will change your life. And when you actually get to go and you see it and you see what the money does, I mean, it's I'll never be the same. It's just such a special place. So thank you for everyone who has donated items, donated money for their tickets and all that. Normally our opening monologue is not this long. I feel bad. I want to get our guests on, but I'm really excited about this because we're so proud of what we've done together these last couple of years, and I'm excited, man. I'm excited. So that's my spiel. That's my spiel. So Mitchell, do you have anything before we bring these guys on? Because these guys are, man.
That's
it's an honor to have them both on here together. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited to get this going. Yeah, last year I donated as, trying to win some stuff, but this year I'm in it to help promote it. I'm here to help the cause,
Yeah,
donating a
now
few things myself as well.
now you're ineligible for to win anything. So
Yes, but hey, it's all for the charity at the end of the day, right?
yeah,
Like I said, I'm going to be donating some Canadian exclusives, so
yes,
that's pretty exciting.
that's true.
And
That's very true.
yeah, it's just for a great cause, like you said. And the official current number is $4,509 raised. And yeah, we've been up a day or two.
It went up Monday at 7 p.m.
Yeah, so just an amazing start. Thank you everyone for donating. And yeah, there's just going to be amazing prizes put up every week, and I can't wait to see what happens this year.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting, and we'll keep updating everyone as things change and whatnot. But without further ado, we have two guests with us tonight. Two guests, two guys who own two of the biggest retail operations in the world. It's probably the two of the most well known outside of, I think the third would be Abe at Smokin. But we have with us two giants. We got David Garofalo of Two Guys Smoke Shop and Jeff Borysiewicz of Corona Cigar. And they're both with us right here, right now, tonight. Let's bring them on. I got a lot of energy tonight. It's been
Welcome in, guys.
It's been a fucking week. What's up, guys?
Hello.
Well,
hello, everybody.
welcome to the show. This is our State of the Retail show. Kind of like the State of the Union, but but before we get into it, especially with Dave here, I'm really excited. We got to run this one. You ready, Mitchell? It's time for Cigar of the Night. Brought to you by who, Mitchell? Who is it brought to you by?
Two Guys Smoke Shop.
Oh, and where's Dave? Oh, what happened?
Oh, he's
Hold on.
He left.
No, you know what happened? I know exactly what happened.
when he reconnected.
When he reconnected I had all the scenes ready, but he kept going in and out so many times that we lost him. So there he is. All right, there he is.
There you go.
It is time for a Cigar of the Night, brought to you by the number 2 guyscigars.com. If you head over to the number 2, that's right, that's the number 2, like Barry says on the Cigar Authority, cigars.com, you can find an amazing selection of cigars from this industry, including the Bandolero 60 Series C Barbaros, which you can purchase in a box for $3.51, and or a single for $16.49. And Mitchell, what are you smoking? I know you got something pretty cool over there.
Yeah, I've got myself the Garofalo La Familia Connecticut. Not a huge Connecticut smoker myself, but this is a nice mild one to start off the day. It starts off with a kick. It starts off with a nice amount of pepper spice, but then it really falls into that nice creamy oak, or more like cedar, but still that depth of a nice Connecticut.
Yeah, and those are made at Perdomo. Those are great cigars. And they just went through a repackaging. Actually, Dave, since you're here, you can speak to this. You guys actually just went through a whole repackaging on that cigar in the last couple of years, if I remember correctly, right?
We did. Nick said you have to step it up. The cigar is great, but the band doesn't look so good. So we have to go to Holland to make the band. And I said, "We'll do whatever you want to do." And him and Arthur Kemper, his right-hand man over there, worked on it, sent it to Holland, and all I got was the bill. Well, let me tell you, I was sticker shocked, because it was literally, a run of cigar bands, let's say, is $6,000. This was $36,000. I literally shit my pants. I'm like, holy God, it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it. So we'll see. Beautiful band, but wow. Sticker shock for sure. And I'll tell you, this ad I've been running on Smokin Tabacco is worth every dime of it just today, because we got Jeff Borysiewicz with Corona Cigar as we're advertising Two Guys Smoke Shop. So it's already paid for itself. It's all set.
There you go. What did you light up tonight, Jeff?
So listen, I was joking. I feel like Dave's like Don Corleone sitting there, because we all got cigars that passed through the Godfather there. I'm smoking a Byron, our 25th anniversary Byron, which also happened to pass through Dave's hands at some point up there. And my next cigar that's coming up is my Atabey, which I've been treasuring these. We don't have these for sale anymore. So when I break them out, it's a special occasion. And so if I'm going to do a show with Dave, this is a special occasion.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, all those. So, Dave, all the Atabey, Byron, Bandolier, the Alfonso now, that all goes through the Nashua store, right?
No, it is,
Actually, no.
There is a
The warehouse.
point, yeah.
That's right. Now it's the warehouse.
In New Hampshire. And I stopped by there today just to say hi to the gang that works over there. And it smells like coffee inside there. It's, there's offices and all that stuff. There's no smoking allowed, actually. So I'm not there very often at all. But it's very interesting to see the next step. And all quiet, soft music's playing. It's completely the opposite of the hecticness that happened within my store as we tried to operate it within my store. Jeff, you went through the same thing when your operation was inside the store at the same time. It was mayhem. And finally pulling the trigger off and saying, okay, let it be separated like it should be. And everybody calmed down at that point,
Yeah, it definitely helps having a warehouse to kind of separate, that entity. And you guys do a lot of volume too. I mean, that's a lot to do. I mean, the National Store is a good sized store, but still, the volume you guys move, yeah, that definitely that was the right decision. All right, we're moving on to our cutter and lighters of the night, which are brought to you once again by Cigar Blondie Accessories, and I have to bring Dave back in here again. I don't know why I keep losing there it is. Sorry about that, everybody. Our cutters and lighters brought to you by Cigar Blondie. I have them with me right here. Double guillotine cutter, as well as the flat blade flame lighter. Right there, as you can see, very sleek, very sexy. Available in 3 finishes, chrome, white, and black, and only available at cigarblondie.com. All right, guys, let's get into it. Let's get into the show. This is one I've been looking forward to, as has Mitchell. We're talking retail, we're talking cigars, we're talking consumers. They're coming in, they're ordering online, they're buying cigars, they're buying what's hot, they're not buying what's not. Let's start out with, Jeff, we'll start with you, then Dave will go with you. Right off the bat, just to kind of break it up, what is the highest selling SKUs that you have right now? Like, I don't know, top 5, top 10, I don't know what you have, but what are the SKUs that sell the most?
So what I do is every January, I post on social media, and I actually send an email out to you that shows the top 25 cigars for us. And we break it into 4 categories. We break it into based on dollar sales, single sticks, full boxes, and then based on units sold, single sticks, and full boxes. And there's a reason for that, because there really is there's 2 different buyers out there. There's guys that buy, stick by stick, and guys that buy by the box. And, we've got 5 retail locations and then the mail order. So there's a big difference between mail order and internet sales versus consumption on premise, which is what I would call our retail consumers. Because a lot of the, I would have to say probably maybe 30% of the cigars that run through the register are also somebody's going to light one up while they're there, or maybe even more. They're not going to smoke every single cigar they bought, but pretty much every time somebody comes in the Corona cigar, they're going to at least have a cigar before they go home. So when people smoke cigars, well, remember, we're in Florida. You guys are up north, so it's very different. We have almost year-round. You can go out, you can smoke a cigar outside. So people tend to have a size-wise, like a Toro-sized cigar. And when they smoke a cigar on premise, price is not as much of a factor as them buying what they want or smoking the best cigars, because you only have X amount of time, and for a lot of guys, it's like they don't care what the price is, just they want what's the best. So I can tell you, like, our top 5 cigars. Let me just kind of go over, because I don't want to. This drills down to individual cigars, but I can tell you what the top brands were. Davidoff, Plasencia. Plasencia's made a move in the last 5 years. That brand has really elevated itself into the premium. Let's call it the luxury cigar category. But so that's one of the newer brands that are in there. Atabey, Padron Anniversary. Uh, believe it or not, we're selling a ton of Deadwood, a lot of that.
Wow.
Byron, Florida Sungrown, Sober Mesa. Those are all like top brands based on dollars. When you start getting the volume of sticks, you'll run into things like, your bread and butter cigars like Fuente 858, more of the Drew Estate brands. A lot of flavored cigars are still showing up. That's another thing that people don't believe. Tatiana is one of our top selling cigars.
I believe it.
So, and Acid has always been a top seller. La Flor Dominicana is an interesting brand. They've been short on shipments, but that's also a brand that does well. But if it had inventory at the level that the customers are demanding, it would be even higher on the list. So those are the type of brands that are doing well for us. We're if you notice, like I said, they're all top tier cigars, but it becomes shocking for some people, and they're like, dude, you're selling $40 cigars, and yet you got Tatiana's on the list as well, and Deadwood. And it's like, yeah, that's because that's a cross section of who smokes cigars. You'll have a guy that's sitting in the store smoking a Padron Anniversary or Atabey, and the guy next to him's got a Tatiana. It is what it is. So, how about you, Dave?
Well, I've been to all your shops except the new one in Sarasota. I peeked in the door, but I haven't been in there yet until they have the grand opening. We have a different model. The bulk of our customers come in, buy their cigars, and leave. There's a handful of people that sit in the lounges and things like that. Actually, more so in the wintertime because they can't smoke in their own house, say. That would hang out, but we sell far less cigars in the wintertime than we do in the summertime. As a matter of fact, I'd go as far as to say it might drop about 60%. I used to say 50%, but it's even worse than that. Drops about 60%. Q1 is really bad. We get a little December rush for gift giving and stuff, but the winter is pretty horrible in the Northeast. So when the nice weather is out, they actually don't want to sit in the cigar lounge. They want to get out because we probably have been in for 5 or 6 months indoors. So it becomes a whole different model at that point of what they do. Also, we don't serve liquor in our lounges, so they want to go elsewhere. But much like you said, it's very diverse of what happens when you talk about dollar amounts, and we do it both ways. Also, we look at what sells the biggest dollar amounts. And Atabey is our number one in dollar amounts by far. It adds up to a lot of dollars. But when you talk about units sold, it is very, very different at that point. We have a brand called Dos Hombre. These are $5 cigars and less. And Dos Hombre, we sell about 500,000 in our store, 500,000 of these lower price cigars. And why do people smoke lower price cigars and stuff? These people that, they buy 40, 80 at a time. So they really add up, and you're not going to buy 80 Atabeys at a time, but when you sell one box of Atabey, it equals more than the 80 cigars that guy bought. So the dollars add up, but it becomes very different. So I wish I had, if I knew, I would have been more prepared to rattle it off exactly what it is. But I would say after it becomes Dos Hombre, as far as volumes, units, it's the two P's, I like to call them, Padron and Perdomo. Neck and neck, Padron and Perdomo are like huge units. And not just the Padron Anniversario, it's just all Padrones, the regular 2,000, 3,000s, huge numbers that they add up to, and Perdomo across the board, including his bundles that are there, lots and lots of units. When the pallets of Perdomo come in, I laugh because I said, oh my God, look at all these Perdomos. Would you order enough for the year? And then it's a month later or something, and they're ordering more of them. And the same goes for Padron. And we probably could sell more if we got more. So that would be 2 and 3, 2 Dos Hombre being number one. And then those are all the time. Year after year after year, most likely those are the ones that are selling the biggest volume. And then it becomes what is the hot ones that are going on. things that maybe the cigar of the year things, and whatever company and brand is hot at the time. They do very, very well, but they usually don't break through the 2Ps. You know, it's impossible to get past them, and nobody honestly gets past Dos Hombre because it's a volume cigar for sure. And Jeff, I know you have bundle cigars too. I mean, it's got to add up to a lot. People wouldn't think so, but those are the big unit sellers, right?
Yeah, for us, believe it or not, we sell a lot more of the Corona branded cigars than the bundles. Let's say most bundles for us are probably like $35 to $40 for a bundle of 20. We have our boxed version long filler Corona cigars that are going to start at $59 and they go up to like $120 a box for 20 cigars. So we really sell up volume wise tons of our Corona Nicaraguan, our 10th anniversary, 25th anniversary, the ones that have FSG in it, things like that. And you got to remember, I mean, you've had your Dos Hombres forever. We've had our Corona Nicaraguan selection and our Corona brand since '98. So these brands are like really, really established. So that's why those continue to turn. But I was telling, I think it was in January, Nick was at our store doing an event, and I really complimented Nick that during COVID, no other factory churned out cigars consistently like Perdomo. We were like never, if you looked at our shelf, I don't think I ever saw where we didn't have the Perdomo on the shelf, which is that's amazing, to be honest with you. So he really did probably the best in the industry during COVID of cranking out cigars. And like Dave said, Padron is gonna, even to this day, right now, I know the 1,000 series are in short supply. Seems like we never have 7,000. So there are still there's some gaps in the inventory right now. Fuente, there's gaps in as well. So some of these numbers, when I read, because I read them off of a sales report, right? So you have to consider that there are some things that have been a little bit scarce on the shelves.
Yeah, you mentioned the Flor Dominicana, and I know Connie's your best buddy, and he's my buddy too. But we could be doing way more with La Flor Dominicana. But it's always been a problem. But it seems to be getting worse and worse, which is maybe they're getting more popular and more popular. I don't know what the reason, but there's certainly not enough of them.
Yeah, Jeff mentioned Perdomo. Well, you both mentioned Perdomo, but Jeff brought up, during the pandemic. Did Nick even close his factory during the pandemic? It seemed like they never even stopped. Well, all these other factories shut down and they paused. Did Nick even stop production at all during the pandemic?
I don't know, Dave. Do you know?
I don't know for sure, but I know you know Nick as well as I do. Nick gets ready for a rainy day.
Yeah,
he certainly did. It's too much inventory. Somebody would say it's the same as the way I operate, and I believe the way Jeff operates, that we're certainly not waiting to place an order until we get our inventory down to nothing. You have cycles that you end up doing this, and you don't want to be out of inventory, and that's how he was too. To say, just in case a rainy day comes, I better have a few million extra cigars on hand, and he did, and he took shelf space. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, so I want to piggyback on what Dave was saying there. There's a difference when you have family-owned companies, Nick can make that decision to say, hey, I want 2 years worth of inventory sitting in the humidor. Where if you're publicly traded, they're like, what the hell are you doing with all that inventory? Your turn needs to be greater. Bring that down to maybe 6 months supply. As a retailer, it's real simple, man. You've only got one thing to sell, and that's inventory. So and I think Dave started, and I know I started in the middle of the boom when inventory was an issue, back in the early 90s. So inventory is always king in this business, but it eats up tons of cash. So you'll have lots of cash sitting in inventory, and you're not going to, you might, are you willing to sacrifice having 2 turns a year versus 4 turns a year, but running a real tight inventory? For me, if I'd rather tie up the cash in inventory, and that's why during COVID, our stores always had cigars on the shelf. There's things that you might not find But I can promise you, what I use this saying, I say, I don't want to see wood, meaning I don't want to see the bottom of the shelves ever. So when a customer walks in, they know that those shelves are fully stocked. It just may not have every brand that they're used to finding. But if we can bat, 90%, that's pretty damn good. We were probably doing more like 95% that we had overall, because remember, we have a ton of brands. So, but we still probably had about a 95% fill rate on our cigars during the shutdowns.
Now, Dave, one thing I just wanted to touch on really quickly. Jeff talked a lot about how they do a lot with flavored. They got Tatiana. They got a lot of Drew Estate stuff. Refresh my memory. Do you guys carry a lot of those flavored cigars too? Do you do a lot of?
We do not.
Okay.
We do not, because the state of New Hampshire says that is a non-premium cigar if it is a flavored cigar, where Drew Estate says their cigar is not a flavored cigar, and they've made that argument to states and stuff. Acid sits on our shelf, but Tatiana does not. Back in the day, flavored cigars was $1 million business for me, and that went away as domestic cigars, machine-made cigars. Non-flavored machine-made cigars was another $1 million business for me. The state of New Hampshire says that's not a premium cigar. I say this negatively, but I'm the cause of it. I'm the reason why, because I defined what a premium cigar was in the state. So I caused that demise to myself. But the problem was that there were companies out there making cigarettes, and they would put brown paper on the cigarettes, and they would call them cigars. And that was what the problem became in New Hampshire, that the government saw that, said these are cigarettes masquerading as cigars, and we're going to now tax cigars as cigarettes because it's the same thing. So I saved it at that point that said, oh no, this is a cigarette, obviously, you're correct, but this is what a cigar looks like, and this is what it is. So when they came down to the exact definition of it, they ended up hurting me in certain, but we saved most of it. The same happened with pipe tobacco, that cigarette companies would take roll your own cigarettes, and they would start declassifying the name and calling it pipe tobacco, but it was roll your own cigarettes. And they did that in New Hampshire also, where New Hampshire has a 67% tax on pipe tobacco because the cigarette companies started calling their roll your own pipe tobacco. And to this day, we sell virtually no pipe tobacco. And I just had this argument in the state. I went to Congress and I fought with them, and I said, it's time to overturn that. How much money are you making on pipe tobacco? The answer is next to nothing. I don't even carry it anymore. And if a consumer wanted it, they would certainly buy it out of state, because 67%. And we're trying to play a little defense right now. Instead of defense, play a little offense and try to overturn a tax they put on, which is a tax on pipe tobacco, which we were just in the crosshairs of it because they were trying to get it to roll your own cigarettes. So that becomes part of the problem.
Let me expand on that real quick, because what a lot of people don't understand is that they would take cigarette tobacco that's sold in a big bulk bag, and they would call it pipe tobacco. I don't know about New Hampshire, but in Florida they had these machines. You'd go to these smoke shops, and you'd buy the bag of tobacco, load it in the hopper, and then the machine would spit out cigarettes. And so that was causing, number one, it was kind of jumping the cigarette tax, but number two, man, Philip Morris didn't like that. That was a big, you're cutting out the cigarette guys themselves. So unfortunately, because the games that were getting played, traditional pipe tobacco, their ox got gored, and I don't know. Good luck if hopefully you can get around it, but it's been a problem.
Right.
Pipe tobacco really just doesn't have the amount of support premium cigars do, right? There's not as many associations standing behind them, as well as even a consumer base. You probably look at the consumer base of a pipe smoker versus a premium cigar smoker. It's probably drastically different. So those companies are just taking advantage of that and trying to make a quick buck and work around. And unfortunately, those people who do enjoy pipe, which that's actually what I started with before kind of going to premium cigars, they're unfortunately the ones who suffer, right?
Right.
It's true.
Exactly. And the company out there, and I don't know Jeff's feeling, I'm just going to tell you on a personal level, there's a organization out there, the Cigar Association of America, which is, you know, they're there to protect cigars supposedly, but it's more on these mass market products than anything else. And they're the ones that own the organization on the pipe tobacco people also. So that's the organization that's out there. So they fight for them too. And their fight is very different than a brick and mortar fight. And it becomes a different game to it. And unfortunately, they haven't had a lot of success with that. So I'm trying it myself and see if I can bring it back to a certain degree in the state of New Hampshire anyway. It's a shame. And part of that reason is that tax has come up on pipe tobacco, which used to be relatively inexpensive, but it's not just the state of New Hampshire. There's pipe tobacco tax across the country. And, you know, again, maybe they're protecting the bigger companies, the Philip Morris's and alike, or some of these cigar companies, big organizations. Let's take a General Cigar. It's owned by Scandinavian Tobacco. Scandinavian Tobacco is a big cigarette maker, as is a lot of these people. So, you know, they have, you know, bigger fish to fry when it comes to that on their side. So as much as we try to be together, sometimes we're separate in this industry because we don't align completely. I don't have to tell you, Jeff is the guy that organized CRA himself. That was the beginning of the whole Cigar Rights of America. He put that together, and watching what he put together there, I'm a strong fighter in the states that I was in, that I operated on, but Jeff took it to a national level at that point, and certainly made a lot of changes there.
Keith Park was the other half of that. Myself, Keith Park, and then we had a lot of help from all the manufacturers too. But yeah, listen, at the same time, it just comes down to one thing. Some people are like, I don't want to be involved in politics, and whether you like it or not, politics is involved in you. And if you're not active on it, they're going to get you. So it's a nonstop fight.
That's a good point. It's a good point.
Yep.
So one of the things, kind of while we're in this discussion, I was going to bring this up later, but it kind of feels right to do it now. Something that came up recently, well, actually two things. One of them is a little bit more specific to New Hampshire. One of them is more on the federal level. The FDA. Recently we heard about new FDA conversations about the manufacturing process and everything that is being proposed. I would assume sorry, I can't talk. That's being proposed right now in terms of requirements and stuff like that. And I haven't dug deep into it myself personally, to be honest. I've kind of flipped through it a little bit and had some conversation with people who know a little bit about it. I know you two guys are probably somewhat versed on this at this point. What is it? What are your Dave, we'll go with you first. What are your opinions on this? Is this going to hurt the smaller boutique brands who really just can't afford to keep going through all these hoops that keep coming up with the FDA?
Again, there's no prices on these things, and when prices happen, I want to say to the consumer out there that you think this is something that the manufacturer has to deal with or the retailer has to deal with it. But these taxes are passed on to the consumer, just so that they understand that you know, we don't pay taxes, we collect taxes, and we collect taxes from the end user who uses the product. So please understand that it seems like we are fighting for ourselves, and we're fighting for our good too, but we're fighting for you also, because at the end of this thing, you know, just like S-chip happened, it gets passed on to us, and we pass it on to the consumer, and whatever hoops and things that they're going to make these people jump through that's going to add on to these things. I don't make cigars myself. I have cigars made for me, but I don't own any manufacturing thing at all. And probably the closest is going to be Jeff. To at least he grows tobacco and then has to sell that tobacco out of the country. I don't know if he has to deal with that as export or anything.
So I'll give you my take on it. So from what I understand, it's like a 300-page report. I talked to Eric Newman a little bit about it, and to be honest with you, based on what I'm reading, and I haven't heard the industry responses to it, but um, foreign nations are sovereign nations. The Food and Drug Administration has no uh, jurisdiction inside a factory in Nicaragua, in a foreign country, in a sovereign nation. Okay, so I think that the only factory that they're actually going to be able to apply this to are U.S. factories, because an FDA inspectors, first off, they're not allowed. It's like a USD inspector. They're not allowed to jump in a plane, go to a factory in Nicaragua, and then start telling them what they got to do. So I don't see how that's going to happen. Um, let's see what the lawyers say, but I've never seen that happen before. Like, I'm in the cattle business, and so USDA and FDA regs on the beef cattle industry. I've been to slaughterhouses in Nicaragua, and they don't have USDA inspectors in there. They don't have FDA inspectors on how food is processed there, or how um, chemicals are labeled for food crops there. It doesn't. They don't have the jurisdiction. So I don't know. Again, I'm not a lawyer, and I haven't spent any time on it at all. But I don't see how. Let's put it in a different way. OSHA cannot go into a factory in Mexico and start writing citations. Now, Mexican authorities may have a worker safety program or something, but OSHA can't write a violation there. No more than Canada can come down here and write a violation for us for something that may apply to one of their rules. So, to be honest with you, I think that whole big stack basically probably says JC Newman on it, because that's who they're going to
Right.
be looking at. But at the same time, here's the good part: if anybody can have a workforce that adheres to those standards, whether it's the mask or hairnets or gloves and things like that, the Newmans will be able to do it, and it'll be just part of the deal. I mean, let's remember, the Food and Drug Administration came into they regulate food processing facilities and pharmaceutical processing facilities. So they're kind of taking those type of regulations and putting them on the cigar manufacturing. So um, yeah, let's see how it all turns out. But in the end, this is just the typical government overreach of a very large division of the Food and Drug Administration, the tobacco control people, that have a huge budget. And guess what they got to do? They got to justify their jobs. They got to justify their existence. They have to justify the budget. So what do? You create work, or you create this rule so everybody can keep their jobs, their cushy jobs, in the federal bureaucracy. And that's why DC is sprawled into a 30-mile radius of nothing but regulators.
Yeah, Jeff, that's a good point. I mean, that was kind of what I thought of when I first started too. It's like, how are you going to enforce what gets done in a factory in another country that you have no legal business being in? You know, obviously JC Newman, as you mentioned, that's the big one here. And maybe some of the smaller ones down in Miami, but yeah, it's a very good point. I mean, again, I don't know enough about this either. I haven't read enough about it myself. I know enough to bring up the conversation, and I know kind of roughly what it's about. But I was curious to get both of your takes on this. Obviously being a little bit more attached to the industry than I am. On just kind of what the thoughts and feelings were on this, because anytime you hear FDA come up, it's always like, huh, what now? It's kind of like that little sibling that just won't leave you alone. It's like, what is it this time? And it'll never go away, as you both know. It'll never go away. It's just they're just gonna keep on coming back every time. Like Jeff said, just justifying their jobs. Just keep on attacking everybody, right? Dave, something was brought to my attention today that to be honest with you, I didn't even know about until just now. Someone actually gave me something in the state of New Hampshire. Something was proposed today that had to do with advertising, if I read that correctly. I don't know if you... is Dave frozen? Oh, I think Dave might be frozen there.
I think so.
Yeah, I think Dave's frozen. Uh-oh. Well,
Yeah, I tried to look for that, because you said it was brought forth by the FDA as well. I tried to look in their press announcements. I don't see anything posted for today or even yesterday.
it's a federal bill, actually. I'm being told it's a federal bill being
Okay.
sponsored by Shahid from New Hampshire. Well, anyway, while we wait for Dave to get reconnected, Jeff, I'll have you be just the single guest for the night. Getting caught up on some of these comments here. Janine Perdomo's with us tonight. There's a lot of people with us tonight. He's watching with me, recovering from shoulder surgery. So Nick and Janine are here tonight. Sanjay Patel is here and asks the question: where the fuck are all these so-called cigar advocate groups? Are they doing nothing for the industry and no one simply cares? FDA can't do nothing. I am not worried. Jeff, what's your take on that?
Well, first of all, I like the fighting spirit, what Sanj just said. And because first, there's two parts. At first, I don't agree about when he says that the groups aren't doing anything. The problem is there's so many fires. You can't, there's not enough fire trucks to put the fires out. So you got to hit the big ones. And the big ones are the federal issues. The state issues, they can provide guidance, but I can tell you right now, do not let your business feel like you're protected in your state by some mystery lobbyist that's going to save the day for you. Don't do that. You will get slaughtered. The thing that especially on the state political scene, local shops have way more sway than what you think, because all politics are local, especially when it comes to state issues, meaning that your state representative is, trust me, that those guys don't want, they like to go after the low-hanging fruit, the easy bills, right? They really don't like a lot of conflict. And when you start saying, hey, man, we have this cigar shop that's been doing nothing wrong, been around forever, there's all kinds of dudes that go in there, men and women, and why you want to attack them? It's a very hard position for these people to take. So unless you're there, to get in their ear and give them support, because otherwise you're going to have a bunch of, teenagers and college kids that are trying to get extra credit on their resume, or make it look good on their resume. Hey, we went up to our state capitol and lobbied on behalf of tobacco-free kids. This is the mindset in what they do. And don't forget, those groups have a lot of money. So you have to be the guy that sits there and talks after the 18-year-old gets done and telling you how terrible cigarettes are and all this other stuff. And you're like, whoa, listen, we're cigars, and let's start looking at the facts. And so when you start defending your territory, which is what you got to do, you got to defend your territory. Your store is that's your fort, and you need to defend it. And so when you start having that fighting spirit and take on these the political enemies of that, man, you can beat them. I'm telling you, because I do it in Florida. And let me tell you, Orlando is a district full of Democrats, and the Democrat Party is where it brews itself, right? But not every Democrat wants to put a cigar shop out. But it just happens to fester in that community of, kids that want to do more rules and more taxes and things like that. And I say kids because they're young activists. Like I said, it looks good on your, I don't know if you ever read like these college admission things. You got to put down, how many hours of community service you did and what you did and that other kind of stuff. This is why, it gets them out there, holding posters for whatever it is they're trying to do. But you need to have some common sense, get in the room and defend your turf. And it works. Trust me, it works. We're dealing with something right now in the city of Orlando. And, they want us to close at midnight, but we're going to defend ourselves. And we have nothing to do with the reason that they want all the bars to close at midnight. And so we have to state our case. We have to defend our territory. And so that's what you do. And for us, for example, in Florida, they wanted to, we have a new store going to Sarasota. There's the guy from Sarasota was the head of the Florida Republican Party, but he wanted to ban smoking on beaches because Sarasota Beach didn't get #1 beach in the world because they allow smoking. So they wanted to ban smoking on the beach. I couldn't beat that. But you know what we did? We got an exemption for the entire state of Florida. You cannot ban outdoor smoking for cigars, period. We got that language put in. And how do we do it? By having a coalition of different representatives within the state, by ringing the phone and say, hey, man, dude, my shop's in your district. You come in there. You know what they're trying to do. Educate them, push back. You get your carve out. That's the best you can do. And and you can defend your territory. So back to Sarge, man. When I can just tell by the language he's using, you know, you need guys fired up. You got to be fired up. So just put it in the put that energy protecting your turf. Don't wait for a lobbyist to come in from some trade organization, because there's 49 other states and there's not 49 lobbyists.
All right. Thank you for that, Jeff. Thank you. Dave, thanks for coming back in. I know you froze there for a second, but you're here. You're looking fine now. I was just about to ask you a question. I'm gonna ask you again. Obviously, everyone's open to chime in on it, but I know this one comes, I guess, sponsored out of New Hampshire. And then we're gonna take a quick break for the news, and then we'll bring you guys back in for the other stuff. But I'm being told that, is it Shaheen from New Hampshire is sponsoring on a federal bill. Something on advertising. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Matt, there's a lot going on in New Hampshire right now, and not to bring up my podcast, but I have to in this case.
Go ahead.
Last week on the Cigar Authority podcast, about 30 minutes into the show, I decided last minute, we were doing a show on tobacco that tastes like chocolate, and I decided after 30 minutes into the show, I'm going to get on my soapbox again, and because people don't like to hear it. People don't like to hear what we're saying right now. It's government shit. I want to talk about cigars, but it's so important. So I said, listen, I was at the Capitol the week before, and I testified, and I was the only one there. And my lobbyist was there, and like Jeff said, you can't leave the lobbyist alone. Because the CAA lobbyist was there also. He didn't speak at all. And finally, they asked me to speak. So I got to speak. So I went on for 20, 25 minutes. And they recorded. And it was sent to me after the fact, the video recording of this. And I said, I'm going to put this up because I want to show other retailers and consumers how to talk to them. You have to show them respect. And you have to understand that they're ignorant on the subject. We know everything about cigars. We love cigars, but they don't know anything about cigars. The next thing they're going to be talking about ladders. The next thing they're going to talk about is popcorn. Who knows what the next thing is going to be? They can't know everything. So here I am to do it. And this is when I take that opportunity to teach them. And again, this is a new Congress that came in. So there's some people that don't know me at all, and there's other people that do know me because I show up at every one of these things. And I don't want to. I have 3 stores going, and I have the wholesale company, and I have a family, and I have everything else. But it seems like everybody is too busy to go except me, and I think I'm the busiest one of all, but I go. And I explained that, and I played this 20-minute video clip of me doing it, and then we got on to the next segment. And I knew it was going to be dry and people weren't going to end up liking it, but I was amazed of the hundreds of emails I got after and said that was very, very interesting and the consumer learned something. And hopefully other retailers learned something. They're looking for a 67% tax on cigars in New Hampshire. And these things come up. And this man that put the bill forward, this is the 3rd time he put the bill forward, and he loses and he loses. But I'm always there to fight. And he usually loses, 19-1. And this time he lost 6-14. And I was there. Well, what if I wasn't there? What if it was 11-9? It wasn't many people that this had to go through. And we're talking about this is the Ways and Means Committee where I spoke to them. These people are looking to make money. And I explained to them how you're not going to make money taxing it. People are going to buy elsewhere. I'm going to leave. And I've done it before. I left the state before. And I explained this to them. And if you listen to it, and certainly every retailer should listen to this, 30 minutes in, you don't have to listen to the first 30 minutes of the show, but last week's show, go 30 minutes in and listen to this and watch this and learn how it's to be done and then do it. Do it. I want you to copy me. I want you to end up doing it. But I was there by myself. And if you don't think you can fight City Hall by yourself, you're wrong, because I did it many, many times. But somebody has to show up. Somebody. It happens to be me. And, we do have New Hampshire organization, but they didn't show up, I'm sorry to say. And I did. So thank God I did. And I hope I saved the day. We'll see how the final thing, because now it has its way. It goes through the entire Congress, the entire House, which is 400 people. I had to deal with 20 people. 400 people is very, very tough. Then it passes there and it goes to the Senate. I already have my calls into the Senate because that's a smaller group that I can count the calls there. And then it goes to the governor. I didn't study this when I was in school. I wish I did, because it is so important for every businessman, certainly if you're in the tobacco business, to understand how this government thing works. I hate it. I go to the fundraisers. I give to both sides. I do everything I can to actually save my business. And when the governor says to me, hey, Garofalo, what do you want from me? And I said, I want you to leave me the fuck alone. That's what I want to do. If they would only do that, it would be great. But it's not his fault. It is the fault of one person. But that one person now brings a whole bunch of people that come in, again, just the way Jeff said it. These other people don't even care. They're trying to get something on their resume that ended up fighting for something. If they can accomplish for it to happen, we get wiped out. The whole state of New Hampshire gets wiped out, and we become Massachusetts, and we saw what happened to them, right? So it's so important. But I know it's dry, and nobody wants to hear it, but it's important for you to even bring it up. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. And to add on to your point, I live in the state of Massachusetts.
Yeah.
There's not a lot going on down here. That's what happened.
There used to be 30 people near my store in East Boston. We had 30 retailers there, and there's none left. None.
No.
So it doesn't end well.
Dave, I want to. There's a little something that I learned. Sometimes I've been doing this since 2007, and at first you can get real nervous, right? Because you think that every one of these people is, they're sitting up on high chairs, you're sitting low, and you think every one of them's against you. But here's how you get past it if your nerves are getting there. One guy that doesn't like cigars, or in some cases he has no problem with cigars, he just wants to go to cigarettes, right? Well, what I do is when you're talking to the group, man, pretend they're customers and you're trying to sell them on how to smoke cigars or what the lifestyle is. Man, you win if at the end they feel like, dude, I want to stop by your shop and have a cigar now, right? If you get that reaction out of people who never had a cigar, you did your job. And that's what you do. You can get in there, have your facts and everything else, but there is a level of salesmanship that goes into it. And if you get them where they kind of get it now, you've won the battle. But at the same time, Dave said the first time it was one vote. That's a straw man. They'll do that. They'll do something. They look at it a long game. First year, maybe no traction. Second year, maybe not so much. Third year, now that one guy that brought it up has 3 years up in the House. He's got his buddies. He's going to bring a little coalition because he voted for something that the other guy did. And that's the way politics works. But they can definitely be beat. The time where it can't be beat is sort of where, I don't want to say can't be beat, where it gets really hard to beat is when you've got the anti-tobacco crowd running against you and then big tobacco working against you, because then you're caught in the middle. Because when those guys have done their horse trading as a politician, they're like, dude, we got the two dinosaurs that are fighting, and we got them. This is how the whole S-chip thing happened, and this is how the FDA regulation happened. They got the anti-tobacco people and Philip Morris to say, okay, we can live with this, but unfortunately the premium cigar industry couldn't. And so that's where the fight gets real tough. But again, it's 90% of it or 95% is showing up.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Jeff, if you get a chance to do it, do me a solid and listen to that 20 minutes. And if you have something to say to me that, you should have done this or you should have done that. I typically don't watch myself after I did it, but it was important for me to see it again because I thought it went well. And then I listened to it and I go, I could have brought this up. I could have done this after the fact, Monday morning quarterbacking. But because it's never going to end, I'm going to be back. The next thing that comes up, that it's going to be advertising to it. Okay, next. And it's the same group, and it tends to be the same people. So I'm going to imagine the same people that wanted to end up taxing the cigars at 67, 68%. is the same people that don't want us to advertise it. Well, tax it 67% and don't worry about me advertising it. I'm out. I capped out at 12%.
The thing that scares them too, the part that they can't beat when you get a guy like Dave or any other retailers up there protecting his business, is that I'm sure Dave wasn't reading off of notes. So they know that that's the difference between a lobbyist and the actual guy there. So when the politician hears it coming out of the mouth of the guy that is actually in that business, whose business is in peril over this, and because politicians, man, they got to wade through the bullshit. Each industry from each side is going to do their talking points, and they all stick to the talking points. But when you get a retailer there that they can fire off questions to, and they know they're going to get an unfiltered, truthful answer out of them, that weighs very heavily. And so that's why a guy like Dave or anybody else, when you go up there, you carry a lot more clout than the lobbyist. The lobbyist knows who the players are, but he's not the actual guy. He's your representative.
Yeah, and then they start asking questions like, how many people do you employ, which is how many votes are there, is what they're basically asking at that point. Where are your stores? Are they in their districts or not? There's all these different Congress sitting there, and they had no idea some of these people had no idea who I was till I got there. Other ones that have been there year after year, I walked in and they go, oh, the cigar guy's here. I love to hear it. Good. So they know the story of what it is. And I brought back things that they said to me before, that they did a show and tell with me, and they brought in watermelon blunts before. And they said, I have a problem with this. And I go, well, first off, that isn't a cigar, and that is not a premium cigar. And let me explain to you why. Show and tell. All these things have to end up happening. We know about cigars. They do not know about cigars. And to the point, their job is not to put me out of business, but they need to know that you will put me out of business. And when they hear that, or they hear about how much taxes you pay, one of the guys ends up saying, Dave, you pay these taxes and these taxes, corporate taxes. It's New Hampshire, lowest tax in the country, right? It's the highest business profits taxed in the nation. So business profits. I've been at this for 38 years. I pay a lot of business profits tax because, knock on wood, I'm profitable. And you want that to go away? So, I explain those things to them, and whatever comes up, there are no notes. They said, can you come up here? We have some questions for you. Boom. I know my subject. I know my numbers, and I know my subject when it comes up. And I tried as intelligently as possible. Also, I try not to fight with them in any way. They deserve respect, and you don't win no battle fighting with them and think you're going to win the argument. So it's a respectful interview, basically, is what you're having with them.
Yeah, I listened to that show, and I'd say like one of the most interesting things was definitely when they started. The way they phrased the questions is literally like they actually had no idea what they were even like putting this in for. They were like, well, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? And your answer was like, yeah, why are you doing this? Like, there's like, do you even know why you're putting this in? It's like, well, they want to make money. And it's like, okay, well, if you put this in, you're going to lose money. And at the end of the day, when you kind of put that out there for them, like, hey, look at all the taxes I'm already paying, just owning this business here for X amount of years. You put this tax in, we're at a disadvantage and we're now losing money. So not only do I not pay as much tax on the things I'm already being taxed on because I'm losing money in my business, but I could just leave. There could be businesses being shut down. And, it was great to hear that at the end, it sounded like they were, a lot of the people there had this little epiphany of like, why are we trying to do this? Like, it's definitely a good listen for anyone who hasn't listened.
And to understand who I was talking to the Ways and Means Committee, which is the ways and means for the state to make money. So that's the way I wanted to talk to them. I didn't want to say these are not bad for you, like cigarettes, go into the health aspect. If they end up going that way, which sometimes ends up happening, you say what you got to say and you drag them back in to what they're there for. They're there for the ways and means for the state to actually make money. So I bring it back to that, and I say, you're not going to make money. You're going to put people out of business, and it's not a profitable thing. You'll lose money. Just go back to that, and that's their job, is to make money. So they decided, most of them did anyway, that said, okay, he's right. We can't make any money. If I didn't make that argument, I think we would have been in big, big trouble if I didn't make that argument to him. And most people said, listen, you don't even have to go. There's this same guy that only got one vote the past 2 times he ended up doing it. But the guy built traction. He did. Right. He got to know people after 3 years of being in there. And if you don't think he's going to be there next year, you're crazy. He's going to be there next year, and he's going to try again. But guess what? I'm going to be there too, God willing.
Well, we got to hit our news segment really quick. But before we do, I just want to say, everything that Jeff and Dave have been saying is true and so important. And if anyone needs any reason to believe that, hey, what happens if what these guys are saying, eventually comes true? We lose the fight. What happens? Ask Mitchell, because Mitchell lives in the country of Canada. And Mitchell, what's your tobacco tax up there? What are you paying for tax on cigars? What's your percentage?
Yeah, so it depends on which province. It's about 300%.
So that right there is the end of the conversation. That's the punctuation mark. So you want to know what happens if what Jeff and Dave are telling me, like Dave said, it's dry. I get it. But you want to know what happens when you lose that fight? That's what happens. And then they're going to keep going until there aren't even cigars to tax.
Starts with 50%. It goes up to 80. Goes up to 100. And all of a sudden, you look behind you and all of a sudden it's at 300 and you're in plain packaging and, it's a never ending. It doesn't stop. They actually just released another packaging thing in Canada that luckily the PCA is now attempting to fight. And I'm doing as much as I can locally to lobby for that and get signatures. But yeah, it's once the ball's rolling in their court and there isn't someone showing up, it's a hard thing to stop. And the bigger the ball gets, the harder it is to stop.
Yeah, that's true.
I want to add one thing real quick to that. I know you got to go to a break, but so Canada has tax, then they got plain packaging. The next move is actually to make it illegal, which was what they've done in New Zealand. If you look at the way the World Health Organization works, New Zealand, Australia, Canada are 3 of their favorite playgrounds to play in. And so high taxes, plain packaging, but the next is a sunset clause, which is the bill that was introduced in California, saying if you were born after, I think it was 2008, I don't remember what the year was, but they'll set a date. And if you're born after that, you'll never be able to buy a tobacco product, ever. And so that'll be the next thing that gets introduced in Canada. And we'll probably get traction just because the way the population base is based in Canada, that you can control a whole country based on a few cities. And so that's the next shoe to drop. That's the final frontier for them is the total ban of all tobacco products, including cigars.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well said, Jeff. Thank you. Guys, really quick, it's time for our news segment, and our news is once again brought to you by Micallef Cigars. If you head over to MicallefCigars.com today, you can sign up to become an official ambassador. It's also Micallef March Madness, so head over to MicallefCigars.com and sign up and fill out your Micallef March Madness bracket today. I think they're checking in every week with that. So head over there. Also, go to the Micallef Cigars Facebook group, the Micallef Ambassadors, and join that group as well. It's a great group of people brought to you by Micallef Cigars. So this week, we have a shout-out to LFD and to John Carney, who obviously holds a very special spot here on the Smokin Tabacco Show. He is currently in Oklahoma for the kickoff of the Gourmet Smoke Sessions Tour de Mundo Season 3. La Flor Dominicana and Hacking Gourmet are proud to announce the LFD GSS, the Gourmet Smoke Session Tour de Mundo Season 3. LFD GSS immerses guests in an elevated, around-the-world gourmet food and premium cigar experience. LFD and Hacking Gourmet will be presenting with select retailers the LFD GSS experiences, which will feature 5 hand-selected LFD cigars, including the return of the 2015 Lido Gomez Lusitano and the LFD Chapter 1. Each cigar features wrapper tobaccos from the country of influence of each prepared dish. There will be a minimum of 5 cigars and 5 food pairings per session. Gourmet food selections in Season 3 will be elevated from Season 2 and feature Louisiana-raised alligator, prime filet mignon, tomahawk ribeyes, aged fromage, and a varying selection of game meats. So there's more on that. If you head over to smokintabacco.com in our cigar industry news section, you could read more about it.
Sounds delicious.
I've partaken in this, and I believe both of our guests have, and I'll bring them back now. I know Dave's done it. Jeff, have you done the gourmet smoke session with Carney at Corona? Oh, and now Jeff's frozen. Oh, that's a first tonight. Now Jeff's frozen.
The tides have turned.
I know. Well, Dave, while we wait for Jeff to clear back up, Dave, I know you've done it with, I think you were the first one, because I was there.
Yes. Yeah, we were the guinea pig for it, and it went great. They made a special cigar for that night, and then I was told there was going to be some sort of pack with all of them that would come in at the end, and this thing would be a final thing with a pack of all the different ones. Never happened. But
I know.
Maybe
I heard that too.
Maybe I'll wait for the NFT for that, right?
Yeah. Jeff, I know you froze. I'm not sure when you froze. But we were talking about on our news segment that LFD has announced the Season 3 of their gourmet smoke sessions. Have you guys done? You guys did that at Corona, right?
I have not, and I'm looking forward to doing it because first off, Carney is a foodie, and I respect his respect his passion for food and especially meat. So I'm looking forward to us doing that. We should be doing one this year. Nice.
Now I'm gonna maybe go on a limb here and say if Carney does a gourmet smoke session at Corona Cigar, he's gonna use FSG beef at that session.
That is a given. Matter of fact, we had a Red Meat Lovers Club dinner that we raised some money for a local charity, the Police Athletic League, and he was there with a friend of his. I donated a side of FSG beef, and him and his friend bought that, and I delivered it about 4 weeks ago. So,
nice.
Carney should be making something in the future with that.
Oh, that'll be cool. So, guys, we're getting to the other half of the show. I know we talked a lot about kind of what's hot, what brands are selling. We talked a little bit about governmental stuff, which I was going to save for the end, but now we've already covered it. But kind of moving along, talking kind of about brands that maybe have cooled off. Jeff, we'll start with you, then Dave will go with you after. Are there brands that maybe, were hot for a while and now have started to kind of cool off? Customers are kind of moving away, finding new things. Not to bring up the negative side, but there is, to business. What is the downside of stuff that's selling right now?
Well, that's a harder one for me to focus on as far as like the whole. We don't necessarily see it as like there's lines that slow up, maybe not necessarily an entire brand of cigars. So what we look at are inventory that's just not turning. And sometimes, I don't care whether it's a big company or a small company, sometimes lines fall off, right? But it definitely hurts when the portfolio is smaller on the smaller company. I'll say this too, Corona Cigars is probably the one of, if not the most competitive environment for a boutique brand to get traction. It's just really, really hard. We have so many brands of cigars, and there's so many great cigars on the shelf, and it's tough for a new brand or a boutique brand to get a customer to pick up their cigar versus one that's been out, and I'll call it a trusted brand, the one he's familiar with, one that he's trusted with. It's really, really tough. So we do extend the opportunity for some of the newer brands, if I see them kind of break over the hump, like there's enough traction there for us to give it a try. But I tell you what, I feel bad for a lot of smaller brands because it's tough. It's a tough industry to be in our shelves. When if you have a humidor that has 100 brands, you got if you got 5 facings in there, you got a 5% shot of having a customer pick it up. When you have 1,000 brands, you have not even, you got a 0.5% shot. So that's not, the odds just aren't as good.
Right.
But so we have, that's more of the challenge, I say, for brands that get into the grab bags.
And Dave, what is your feeling on stuff that's kind of cooled off lately?
Well, I had grand thoughts of Adventura was going to be the new hot cigar, that these guys were killing it, and I was all over it. We hand sell in our store, from coming in the store. Hey,
Yeah.
let me show you this, let me show you that. These guys are trained to actually show and sell the product, not necessarily what somebody's looking to buy. It looks like we're trying to brand switch everybody, but one of our goals is to get people to stop moving around the humidor and enjoy the world of cigars instead of I smoke brand X all the time. I always thought that they're missing something if they're doing it. I love certain brands too, but you should make your way around it. We always, I train my staff to try to do that. Adventura was, to me, going to be the next big thing. And unfortunately for them, they had a fire. And all of a sudden, inventory stopped coming in and all that. And they cooled down so much so. We have, again, they're still able to operate, but it's coming in piecemeal, small amounts. And it doesn't work for us. Having it today and not having it tomorrow, and having it the next day and not having it the next day makes it very, very tough. And they start losing shelf space. I've talked to them. I know I have them coming towards, I think maybe September, October. They're going to come up and visit me. I did business with them many, many years ago with a couple of brands. Classic was made by William Ventura. Studio 21 was made by William Ventura many, many years ago. And here with the Sons are coming along, and they look like they were going to be the next thing. I went and visited them a couple of times. They were very motivated. I said, okay, this is it. To me, it looked like they were going to be the next big thing. And unfortunately, it sizzled down big time. So we'll see. They say they're going to make a comeback. They act like they're going to make a comeback. I sure hope they do. I'm a fan. I think they make great stuff, but it was an unfortunate accident that happened, and they have to dig out of it. We saw Fuente, for instance, they had issues over the years and dug out of it and became stronger. Padron, a lot of people that did this. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So hopefully that will for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I know.
Phoenix rising from the ashes, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree with you, Dave. They were high on my list too. I watching them start to climb the ladder and be like, wow, this is gonna be good. They got great cigars. They're making some great stuff. We just met up with them at the trade show a few weeks ago at TPE, and heard all the same things. So again, I hope that they come back stronger than ever, and I do wish them the best. But yeah, I can see how that can be difficult, especially for a retailer who can't always have everything, and you're getting it in such small quantities because the supply issues, and it makes sense, and I get it. But you're right. Hopefully, in the long run, hopefully they come out of it. Something interesting that I wanted to get both of your opinions on. Now, Dave, I know you talked about this on your prediction show last year, and now it has come true. But I'm curious as to how you guys stand on this. The Alec Bradley sale. Alec Bradley sale to STG. Thoughts? And Jeff, we'll start with you this time. Thoughts on this? Now, last year, just as a refresher, STG acquired the Room 101 brand from Matt Booth. This year, they acquired the Alec Bradley brand. Is this the last sale we see from STG for a while, or do we think that maybe there's even another brand we could see in the next year and a half that they go after again? And how does this change Alec Bradley? Do we think Alec Bradley is just going to continue on as it is, or do you think that this is just going to change everything for that brand?
So the sale didn't surprise me. The price is what was shocking. Does it change anything for the brand? I'm just saying this historically. that most of the times when a brand gets bought by the larger companies, long term, the brand doesn't fare well. And it's, I mean, I can go through the list here. Tony Borhani, Bahia Cigars, Tarano Cigars. CAO still has some traction, but nothing like when the Austrianers had it. Punch, Oil de Monterey, when Villazon had it, sold a lot better than what it is now. Um, Aging Room is a different one because Rafael Nodal is there working the brand. But most of your acquisitions long term, the brand tends to slow down and sometimes fade away completely. The I applaud Alan Rubin and his family for selling the brand and having the exit strategy and be able to realize that. That to me, that's the American dream. But there is a life cycle of brands, and I understand why the multinational companies buy them, because it's difficult to build a brand, especially build a brand that has a separate identity from the existing conglomerate, let's call it. So if you're buying a brand like, let's say, Room 101, you know, it's Matt Booth, who is a personality, and you generally only get those type of personalities with entrepreneurs because they have the freedom to do that. Once it gets inside the corporate culture, just because they're so big, they got to protect their assets, especially during cancel culture type of situation we have now. You lose the individual identity of a brand, and they don't have the freedom to do things like they would if they were just a standalone brand. They, for example, let's say like when Matt Booth would do some wacky packaging with some crazy designs on it, I can promise you that none of that would ever get past legal at a company like ST Group. It would never see the light of day. But those were the quirky things that he would do that made, you know, the Matt Booth brand what it was, the identity it has. So to answer your question, do I think it's going to end? No, of course not, because they got to keep the pump primed with some brands. But do I see 10 years from now Alec Bradley being a strong brand? No, it'll be a brand inside a portfolio of 100 other ones. And whether it sticks around, I don't even know.
Dave, thoughts?
Congratulations to the Rubin family. They got all the money and more. I couldn't believe it. That was astronomical. 72.5. Holy shit. We're talking about a brand owner, not a manufacturer, a brand owner. I think it's a new record. I mean, that's unbelievable. There was a few reasons for it. One is because Cigars International, which they own, cigar.com along with others, that was a big seller for them. Also, it has placements at cigar retailers across the country. So the acquisition of that is actually an acquisition of consumers also, that they can get those consumers. Now they own the brand outright. So I can see why they did that. I saw it a mile away. I thought that was going to happen 2 years ago. I probably started saying that's the move for them. And I know Scandinavian is not done yet. They came right out and said it. They're in acquisition mode. Their goal is to take over everything. They would like to be direct to consumer completely and control the whole world of cigars, which is nothing wrong. It's hey, good for them. They want to take over the world. Good, but keep in mind that it is a corporate environment. There is no owner. It is a stockholders company, and the stockholders will dictate and make them changes they don't possibly want to make. Paying that kind of money as a stockholder, boy, I'd look at that and say, you know, show me how you can recoup that kind of money. And the goal is 5 to 7 years. We'll see. I'll sit back and watch how they do it. Tarano was a good example that he mentioned. I don't know, they tried packaging changes. It didn't work, and then it just disappeared. And they did that on a lot of little brands. And Room 101, we'll see what ends up happening. I know everybody is told when they sell the company, you can stay on. but it usually doesn't happen. They keep them on for 6 to 9 months. They get everything they can get out of them of what it is, and then it becomes the entrepreneur's issue that, no, we shouldn't do this. And they say, well, yeah, we are doing it. And then an entrepreneur is going to say, what are you talking about? This is crazy. You're going to do this. And they do it. And then it starts to be friction that ends up happening. So can Matt Booth hang on to the corporate environment? He was there with Davidoff for quite a while. And he ended up leaving. So there was an issue there. Will the same thing happen and he walks away? I would bet yes, that he'll end up walking away from them. And as far as the Alec and Bradley supposedly staying on with them, will they keep them on? And then again, it's the father's money, but when somebody purchases somebody for that kind of money, it's going to be hard for them to take orders when they're that wealthy. Hey, I want you to go around and stand in the store for 6 hours and shake people's hands, and maybe they get sick of that after a while. We'll see how it goes. I don't like it. I don't like these acquisitions to family-owned and operated companies, but it is the American dream. And certainly Alan put in 30 years in the cigar industry. I remember when he started. I'm 38 years in this business. I remember when he ended up starting bogeys, and then flavored cigars, and then Occidental. And then comes Alec Bradley. After that, it was one thing after the other. And sitting there watching him go, I'm like, go, go, go. And he built a great company. Some sort of multiple happened of 72 million. It's astronomical the amount of cigars that he was pumping out with his name on it is amazing to me. But I did go on to CI after that happened to see how many Alec Bradleys there were. Oh my God. I mean, they must be making 50 different kinds of Alec Bradleys. There's so many different, the only person I think that maybe has more than that may be Gurkha and Rocky Patel, that would have more SKUs than Alec Bradley had. So there's a lot of cigars there.
Yeah, it definitely is shocking. I think, like you both said, the number I think was more of a shock than the sale, just how high it was. And it will be interesting to see, for both of those brands, Room 101 and Alec Bradley, how that does develop going forward with, people who are involved in attached. Do they walk away? Yada, yada, yada. What happens with the brand? But yeah, I think there's going to be a lot more buying going on, especially as time goes on. The bigger fish are trying to eat the little fish. And we're going to see more and more and more of that. So the other...
I think like what even Jeff said before, like STG are obviously a very smart company. It seems like, just from a very outside perspective, it seems like they're trying to diversify the way they're buying brands and where the brand they're buying sits on a shelf, right? And so they're buying brands that are going to sit on multiple different areas within a shelf in a store or within their own store, and it increases their odds of grabbing a customer, right? Like Jeff said, if you have 100 facings and you own 10 of those facings, right, you're at 10%, right? You own now another 5 facings, now you're at 15%. The other huge thing, like you said, CI, how many Alec Bradley brands do they have? A huge portfolio. And that was a cost for them before, right? They had to spend money to bring that into their stores. Now there's no real major cost associated besides the now minor production costs. So that number seems massive to us, but again, they're a very smart company. I can see them making that money very quickly just based off of how much cost they are now saving from acquiring this brand. Plus the revenue now that they're gaining from selling this brand within their own company and within the whole scope of thing. There's Alec Bradley is sold nationwide, worldwide, right? They're in Canada, so it's
but see, there's something here though, because they disclosed what the annual sales were. So I believe it was 30 million, or maybe a little more than that. So even if at 30 million, and if you're a highly profitable company and can bring in a 20% EBITDA, which I doubt it's that high, but let's say just to try and get to that number.
Yeah.
So that's $6 million, netted profit to get to a $70 million sale. That's 11 years plus to repay that. And that's why most people were shocked, which actually I'm happy because it makes everybody else's companies look much more valuable than a lot of us thought they were. But so that's why I'm really happy for them what they got. But
It is. And like I
shocking.
said, I think there's a lot more cost saving numbers that we don't see, that we don't realize, that must be playing a huge role. Because like I said, they've got professionals. They have to have professionals looking at that. And like you said, 11 years is a massive amount of time to recuperate
It
your
is a long
investment
time.
into the company. And I don't think anyone would, like, I don't think any smart business person would sit there and say, yeah, like that's the investment we want to make, is like an 11-year process. But you're right. It does show that a strong brand is really, really valued, right? They'd have, like you said, they don't produce cigars. Like, they don't manufacture cigars. They are a name, and the name, it holds a lot.
One of the things I think first that comes to mind is, you guys mentioned, CI and cigars.com, and so you have STG who buys a brand like that, which, Dave, do you carry Alec Bradley?
A little bit, yeah.
And Jeff, I know you probably carry a lot of it. So now you have a company like that buys a brand like Alec Bradley. You probably do a decent amount of business with, right? And now it's going to get focused on these websites, with lower prices and discounts and all this other stuff. You get, and in the long run, where the focus becomes over there and not so much on the stores like Two Guys Smoke Shop, Corona Cigar. That's in the long run. That's also revenue that comes out of your pockets, because now those cigars are kind of a less of a focus in shops like yours, and they're more so being on these big, like CI and all these other websites where that's where their focus is. I could be wrong. Is that usually how these things go when companies like that buy brands that are at least as successful as Alec Bradley?
So for us, though, it's all consumer driven. So it all depends on the turn. Once the turn slows up, we stop carrying it. I mean, a good example is Don Tomas and Estrell. That's another brand that got swallowed up. That U.S. Cigar, U.S. Tobacco, that was a big company, division of UST. So when that got swallowed up, and those brands died off as well. So for us, our decisions are based on a consumer side more than a supplier side. So if the sales slow up, the brand has to be jettisoned, which I'm telling you, just from historic examples, once the brands get bought, we find the sales on the consumer end slow up.
Yeah. And
with the exception of aging room.
True, with Raphael being so involved over there. Yeah, that's very, very true. The rest, like you said,
Which is
history's-
Altadas, not Scandinavian.
right.
Just
Different
to remind
companies.
you that's
Altadas.
Yeah.
Seems like Altadas does have a slightly different model versus SDG in the way they approach brands they acquire and how they move forward with them. But
In the last,
and let me real quick, because that's a great point. The brand, I believe that with aging room, they were also buying a Rafael Nadal. From what I understand on this Alec Bradley, it's brands. Alec and his family will exit the industry. That's from what I understand.
and those are the details. Jeff makes a good point. Those are definitely the details that I think do make a difference. With Raphael still being a face, he's out there. He's working on the brand with the blends, and his face is there, and it's that star power, for lack of a better term, right? It's that star power that's still attached. The Rubens are no longer attached to Alec Bradley. There's no star power there for that brand. It just, like Jeff said earlier, it just becomes another brand in the portfolio.
I go with history. Like when Davidoff bought Avo, they were buying more than a brand. They were buying a man. They were buying a man that was a perhaps, in my opinion, the best cigar frontman you could have, because he had a magnetic personality that would draw people in who never even thought about having a cigar, and it was just like romance. So so you're right, different strategies, and sometimes it works, and we'll see.
Now, another interesting point that a few other people have brought up is the impact, as well as like the relationship Alec Bradley has with Cigar Aficionado and landing on lists there, right? So, Aging Room is one of the ones we've been using, and they've landed a #1 cigar, right, because of the relationship Raphael has with, Cigar Aficionado, and then you have the relationship with the Rubens with Cigar Aficionado. Does that relationship fall away, and do you start to see Alec Bradley cigars still on the list, whether it's in the top 10, top 25? But they're always one that pop up on there. Does that relationship stay strong, and do they continue on there? Because again, lists still can move the needle, and it's definitely something to consider.
Let me text Dave Savona and find out. No, I don't know.
Exactly. No,
so as I saw you smirking, I thought you were going to say, which I'll say it. Are they going to continue to do double page ads? Is going to be determining if they're going to show up on their list or not. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah,
it'll be interesting.
One of the last things I wanted to bring up tonight, we're almost done, guys. Thanks for hanging in there. A little bit longer than we normally run, but there was a lot here going on that I want to make sure we covered. But talking about new brands and stuff, we talked a lot about Atabey and Byron. We've talked about Davidoff. But Jeff, you recently brought in a brand that has caught the industry by storm, at least it seems. It is very popular, moving kind of fast. And that's El Septimo, which is a brand that I know that you've been working a lot on. Tell us a little bit about how well that brand's been doing for you. I was curious to know. Dave, I know you don't carry it, so Jeff, I figured I'd ask you.
All right, so for us, it's doing great. And the reason why is that we super premium cigars is like our strength of our customers like smoking the best. So El Septimo, I was talking to Zaya yesterday actually, and these guys entered the I don't say these guys, it's him and his family. So when you see that booth, by the way, that's his wife, that's his daughter, those are his kids. This is a family-owned company, right, with a lot of money. So I've always been attracted to family-owned companies and guys that still have the passion and energy to grind it out to make a business, even though they don't need to, right? Because some of us got in this business with no money, and other people get into it that have a lot of money, but they have a passion for cigars, but they don't have that. They don't have to work anymore, so it shows. And I've seen a lot of wealthy guys enter this industry. Same thing with Dave. That there's a joke: the quickest way to make $1 million in the cigar business is start with 2. And so I just see Zaya as different. And for someone that came in this business fresh, man, that guy came out with great packaging. His booth was amazing, and he hit the luxury segment. In my opinion, he hit it spot on. And the opportunity for that too was really well, because you had 4 companies that exited the PCA, and when Davidoff was no longer at the PCA, it left a void for all their white label merchants. That these are like prom dates that don't have a date anymore, because you used to have the golden band dinners and stuff like that. So it really worked well for him, because he's able to scoop up a lot of customers that know how to sell expensive cigars.
Right.
So and we're that guy. And I always like to use the analogy that when you go into Corona Cigar, if we were a car dealer, I want to have Rolls Royce, I want to have Bentley, I want to have Porsche, I want to have Bugatti, I want to have Ferrari, I want to have Lamborghini, all on the shelf. And so for us, that's why we got El Septimo. And I believe in the brand. It is a true luxury product. I believe in the cigars, and also there's a line of cognac as well. So it really fits well with what we do. guys that like to have, not they're smoking an Atabey tonight today, or following up with a Byron, and then a Padron anniversary or a Padron 50th. That's even better. A Davidoff Royal Salomon. I want them smoking a big El Septimo Emperor in there too, and it keeps the for us, we don't focus on new brands that are lower priced, because it's really just not. It doesn't make our guys excited, So that's why El Septimo was perfect for what we do.
Yeah, it's interesting. Right at the end there, you made a comment about newer brands at a lower price point that don't work well for you. Dave, do you find the same, or would you say it's the opposite for you and how you guys do things at Two Guys Smoke Shop?
Yeah, we have a lot of laborers and poor guys that have a budget. We're in New Hampshire. This is certainly not Tampa, Florida, or Orlando. I wish it was. I wish there was more people that wanted higher end cigars. We're a Davidoff merchant and have the line of Atabey, Byron, Bandolero, and Alfonso. I did go over the first year over to El Septimo, and Chip Goldine is the one that showed me around. He was brand new. It was day one with him. He knew nothing about the product at all on day one, and gave me a sample, handed me a price sheet. I was sticker shocked, and I said, why are these cigars so expensive? And he didn't know the answer to it. And I said, I don't think I'm going to be able to sell a cigar that doesn't have an answer why the cigar is so expensive. What do I answer these people? And I didn't bite on it, but that's not to say the door's always open. What happened to me with Nelson Alfonso going to that booth the first time was, okay, let me tell you the story and why these cigars are so expensive. And I said, all right, I'm in. I'm going to give these things a try. And it ended up working out for me. Certainly Davidoff already had the years of experience, and it took me years to get a Davidoff account, to be honest. And there's a reason for that, luxury goods. On this one, I'm not sure yet. I'm not buying in quite yet, but I missed a lot of things. I was with Jonathan Drew. I was his first customer way back when he had a brand called Samaro. And I bought it. I did better on Samaro than he did on Samaro, and I bought the closeout. Then he came out with La Vieja, and I bought them, and I bought the closeout when that ended. And then he came out with Acid, and I said, you're out of your mind. And I didn't buy until maybe about 9 months later. And I said, okay, I'm buying now. So who knows what ends up happening? As much as those three stories are interesting, I got a whole bunch of stories later that was the opposite of that. So I'm a historian too. Jeff is bringing up history. All I can do is go to history because I have some, and try not to make the same mistake twice. So I'm cautious when it comes to especially a cigar at that kind of price.
So let me piggyback on something here. When Atabey and Byron first brought out at the show, I didn't buy it. Matter of fact, it was years before I bought it. Dave is the guy that bought in on that first. And now Atabey and Byron were really expensive before. I mean, these guys, yeah, they're expensive now, but back then it was even, the sticker shock thing, right? So, Dave has called a super premium brand early. He was the first guy to really get on that brand. And then we got on it probably 3 years later. Once they changed the packaging, it would work for us. But also that perfect example, that Alfonso, we're selling the hell out of that. It's a very expensive cigar. So for us, there's room for these type of cigars. And like Steve Saka's unicorns, man, we sell a lot of those too. So in Orlando, listen, not everybody's rolling in here to our stores with Rolls Royces. We have tons of guys that are waiters and blue collar workers, and just young guys that are hourly wage working wherever they work. But in the grand scheme of things, okay, a $20 cigar, which there's some El Septimos that start at $12. But let's say a $20. Let's get it right in the middle. $20 for a I don't want to call him a kid. $20 for a young adult who grew up spending $6 on a bullshit coffee, waiting in line for 45 minutes at Starbucks. $20 for a cigar is not that much. I'm telling you. So for these guys where they can smoke a cigar and get an hour and a half of enjoyment, and it's not just smoking a cigar; it's the company that they're with smoking the cigars. So they get to hang out
Sure.
with, we all know the magic of a cigar shop, all the type of people and the diverse people that are there, and how it's the one country club, but you don't have to pay $40,000 to be a member. Yet you're sitting there with the same amenities and talking to all these people, and it's a great place to network, right? So for us, even though you know our mindset is, listen, we sell plenty of inexpensive cigars, but it's we can sell a $20 cigar to somebody that you would think that's out of his price point. We don't make that decision for them. They decide how much they want to spend. And you'll be shocked on how many people, they have one freaking treat. Their wife went and spent money on a bunch of stuff. They're like, dude, I'm smoking a $20 cigar. It is what it is. I'm going to smoke one or two a week. That's my treat. That's what makes me want to get up in the morning when that alarm clock rings and put my work boots on and go get dirty and work. When I'm done, I want to smoke a good cigar.
Amen.
Yeah, amen. Like I said, I was curious how it was performing because I haven't had many conversations with the retailers who carry the brand, and but it seems to be taking off like wildfire. I mean, it's seeing it popping up more and more and more. I know you guys brought it in. You guys are a bigger retailer. You seem like you're doing well with it. So thanks for getting into it, on that brand with us. I appreciate it. But guys, we've been on here for a while. We were on here longer than we normally are. But there was a lot to unpack tonight. So first of all, I want to thank Dave and Jeff, both of you, for being here. I appreciate your time. I know you guys are very busy guys. So just thank you for being here. I appreciate it. This was a great show. A lot of things covered, a lot of topics. And it was truly a delight. You guys are always the best whenever we have you guys on the show. So thank you. Before we wrap up, though, I'll toss it to each one of you. Dave, you can go first, then Jeff, you can follow up. But I just want to say anything you guys wanted to say that we didn't cover, or just any closing thoughts before we wrap up the show.
Jeff, you want to go?
No, he said Dave first.
Oh, all right, Dave first. I'll go first. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for doing this. This is good for cigar business. All these podcasts and all these people that are in social media talking about cigars. I got into business in 1985. Nobody was talking about cigars. It's great. It's great for our business. You end up helping us. You don't know that you do it, but you do it. You start talking about brands, and people come in and ask for the brands, and here they are. If we're lucky enough to have what you're talking about, it ends up helping us out a lot. All this stuff is good for business. Jeff is world class. I met Jeff early on in his career at a trade show, and I've been watching him and studying him. And he does a fantastic job. Just to be on the same platform as him is an honor. So thank you so much for having me on with him.
Absolutely. Jeff?
So just a couple things here. This is just general advice, right? When I met Dave at a trade show one time, he had his mom with him. He used to always bring his mother to the show, and his daughter, Gianna, was with him a couple times too. And remember I said I like family businesses, and I like dealing with the family guys that run their businesses. And to me it was just like, we don't walk around with like a truth meter, but to me it's like, when I met Dave and talking to him, this guy's straight up, and it's a guy that I real early developed trust with. And I'm glad we're on the show here because I like, whenever we do things, I like to hang out with Dave and get into his conspiracy theories, and we go deep down the rabbit hole, which is always fun. But anyway, these shows are good. I want to when we served on the board of directors together, Dave and I did back when it was the IPCPR. I remember the conversations about, hey, we don't let bloggers in the show. Are they considered media or press and all this other stuff? And Dave and me and a few others were like, damn right they are. This is the future. The more that I say, a lot of the success of the cigar business is the more they try to shut us up, the more the organic cigar community happens, whether it's online or blogs or social media or whatever. So I appreciate all these shows and the times you guys put into it, because that is what keeps the industry interesting and alive and adds adds a character and personality to what we do. So thanks for having the show. I glad to do this, and anytime in the future, have Dave and I on there again once a year, man. This will be a fun thing to do.
Yeah, we could definitely do that. I think that might be our thing. That might be our thing going forward. That would be it'd be good fun. It would be a good time. I look forward to it. Like I said,
It's a blast.
It's an honor to have you both on here, especially with your experience, your years in business, and to be able to share that together, with different point of views, but with that kind of that same background. I think it's great and it's something different. So thank you for being able to be here and share all that with us, and I appreciate the kind words from both of you. Not for nothing, I wouldn't be here without Dave. I mean, Dave remembers I used to just come in and shop and hang out, and now I'm here. So, it really is. It's a special industry. It's a small industry, but it's a special one, and that's why we can't let it die. Just like you both said earlier tonight, just gotta keep fighting for it. That's what matters.
I like the way Dave talks too with his accent. Anyway.
Yeah, it's true. It's a good accent. I got it too, and definitely gets picked up on. But guys, thank you for being here one last time. I just want to remind everyone our CFCF fundraiser is in full swing. We're closing in on our first 5,000 after our first 48 hours of being live. We got 42 days left to go. What do we got? We got 41 days, 20 hours, so just under 42 days left to go before the end. So go on and grab your raffle tickets today, or just make a general donation. It all goes to such a great place and such a great cause. Appreciate everyone who's involved. And as always, you can head over to smokintabacco.com for more news, reviews, and updates from the cigar industry. With that, we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Bye-bye.